Howdy y'all, Jordan here, and it's gotten to that time in the CHL season again. Each of the member leagues have gotten down to 2 teams, and it's time to begin the Championship Series. Here's how that's going to shake out. So let's begin with the Ontario Hockey League, because that's who we're most familiar with, right? And let's get to the Western Conference winning London Knights. The London Knights in the first round swept the Owen Sound Attack 4-0, went on to the second round, swept the Erie Otters 4-0, and went to the conference final and swept the Kitchener Rangers 4-0. So a bit of a pattern. 12-0 in the playoffs so far are the London Knights. Facing them in the Eastern Conference, the Oshawa Generals. Their first round we saw up close and personal on this channel. They beat the Brampton Steelheads 4-2. Went on to the second round, beat the Brantford Bulldogs 4-2, and then faced the Barrie Colts in the Eastern Conference final and swept them 4-0. So as it turns out, the 2 teams who end the OHL season this year are the same 2 teams who ended the OHL season last year, and that ended up in a 4-0 London sweep. I'm not sure if I want to call a sweep again. Of course, they swept the playoffs so far, but I'm always hesitant to call a sweep because it feels like I'm disrespecting one team when they've had a good season. But I am going to call the London Knights to beat the Oshawa Generals in 5 games and win the OHL Championship for a second straight year. Moving on to the Western Hockey League, and the Eastern Conference champions there are the Medicine Hat Tigers, the team of Gavin McKenna, who is famously, a cousin of Connor Bedard and projected to be the 2026 top pick. So, nice young team there. They led the Eastern Conference pretty much all season long. First round, they beat the Swift Current Broncos 4-1 before sweeping the Prince Albert Raiders in round 2 and the Lethbridge Hurricanes in round 3. So a pretty smooth sailing to the final for the Medicine Hat Tigers. Facing the Medicine Hat Tigers in the Western Hockey League final are the Western Conference champion Spokane Chiefs. And by the way, if you tune into some of the Western Hockey League final games, you may see a familiar face on the Spokane Chiefs bench. That's right, the Steelheads' former equipment manager, Tom Frater, has taken the same job with them this season. So Spokane opened their playoffs by beating the Vancouver Giants 4-1. Moved on to round 2, faced the Victoria Royals and beat them 4-2, before sweeping the Portland Winterhawks in the Western Conference final. Portland, up to that point, had kind of been a dragon slayer. They beat Prince George in the first round as a low seed, and then went on to beat the top-seeded Everett Silvertips in round 2. They had the most points in the Western Hockey League, but they ran into Spokane and I guess finally ran out of gas. So it is Spokane who prevails and who faces Medicine Hat in the Western Hockey League final. So Medicine Hat has definitely been a strong team all season. Spokane has kind of shown they can play with the big boys in the playoffs, but I am going to call Medicine Hat to win the Western Conference final 4-2 over Spokane. Moving on to the QMJHL, and there is a bit of a unique situation there, which I'll explain a bit later, but start with the Moncton Wildcats, who finished with 108 points. Not as many as London, but keep in mind the QMJHL only plays 64 games now, whereas the O and the Western Hockey League plays 68, so not as many points as London, but possibly a better percentage than London, so keep that in mind. Moncton started their playoffs by sweeping the Quebec Remparts in round 1. They beat the Baie-Comeau Drakkar in 5 games in round 2, and then swept the Rwanda Huskies in the Final Four series. So facing the Moncton Wildcats in the final is the Rimouski Oceanic, who are in the same conference as the Moncton Wildcats. Another different thing that the Quebec League does is once they get to the Final Four, they throw the conferences out and reseed the 4 teams by points. So that is why 2 teams in the same conference are facing each other in the finals. So the Rimouski Oceanic began their playoffs by sweeping the Charlottetown Islanders, moved on to round 2 against the Chicoutimi Saguenayans, beat them in 6 games, and then just last night actually played Game 7 against the Shawinigan Cataracts. That game went to double overtime before Rimouski ended up winning it, and they move on to the final against Moncton. So the unique situation with the Quebec League finals is this: Rimouski also happens to be the Memorial Cup host. So if they were to win the Quebec League Championship as well, they could not take up both spots in the tournament, the host spot and the Quebec League champion spot. So that would go to the runner-up, which would be the Moncton Wildcats if it was Rimouski who won. Basically, both Moncton and Rimouski are already guaranteed to play in the Memorial Cup tournament. So obviously they're still going to play the Quebec League Championship Series because the league wants to crown a champion, and both of these teams do want to be the Quebec League champion. But regardless of what happens, the team that loses, their season will not be over. They'll be going right into the Memorial Cup tournament. I am going to call Moncton to win the Quebec League Championship in 5 games. They were a pretty strong team all year. But yeah, it's going to be fun watching these 2 battle it out in that series and in the Memorial Cup as well. As always, every CHL Championship Series game and Memorial Cup game will be carried by TSN. The OHL Championship actually very neatly scheduled around the Leaf Series, so that none of their games clash. So pretty smart thinking, because you want people to watch your games, right? So yeah, good luck to everyone competing in the CHL Championship Series and the Memorial Cup as well. It's going to be a lot of great hockey. I do have a baseball vlog coming up for you soon. I was able to find some time to go to a Blue Jays game in between the two Leaf Series, but yeah. Been a pretty slow summer so far, but hopefully things heat up and I have a little more to talk about. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Check out my reaction channel, Jordan Vision Reactions. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.